J-Lord, ring us in, dude. Let's get this thing going. Like, bruh. Let's go. You don't even remember the buttons.
I do.
How rusty you are. All right, so, well, first off, man, like, that was a good show. Man, it's good to be back.
Very good to be back.
You know, we haven't had somebody, you know, from industry come on and talk to us in a while. And so it's kind of cool that we have an opportunity to do that. Today, we have my good friend Joe and Artie from Portal 26. Portal 26 is an AI, artificial intelligence governance company. You know, like before we get into introducing Joe and Artie, you know, first we would encourage all our friends and listeners to go back and listen to about a year ago. You and I had, you know, some pretty prolific things to say about what was happening in the industry regarding the adoption of artificial intelligence, what it meant for the security community.
I still hate it. If you're a salesperson on LinkedIn, do not email me about your new AI offering. I'll reach out to you if I'm interested.
Right. And so, you know, that was a really fun show. Only in that the perspective that was shared was really cool. But I met Joe at RSA this year. And we had a few drinks, and it's kind of neat to think about. You know, the world is now thinking about both. You and I are talking about the bad that comes from AI, because obviously that's how most technology launches.
Yeah.
Right. Like without governance, without control, there are no governance or controls around, you know, what the adversary would want to use AI for. They just immediately conscript it, take advantage of it, and the legal precedence is what it is. But like what it means for other organizations to take advantage of it as you know, a business shaper is also dangerous. Comes with it a whole set of new ways of thinking about, like, what does it mean from a compliance perspective? What does it mean about black boxing the industry in a way where your people don't know what they're doing anymore, and those kinds of things. So anyway, I don't want to pitch Portal 26's story. They got a really interesting one, but
I have a funny thing. I was consulting with a company, and I asked them if they had they reviewed an AI policy as part of their security policy. And they said, yeah. They sent it over to me, and I put it into ChatGPT, and they had used ChatGPT to generate their AI policy. I was like, perfect world. This is where we're at.
Feels right.
Yeah.
Feels totally right. So I'm here with the founder, which is great, Artie. And Joe, who's VP of Strategy. Listen, like you guys, we gave you a little run up to what the show's all about. Like we're just a couple of old salts here that love to get on the show and talk about what we see and like offer a you know, kind of an unvarnished perspective. And so really looking forward to our conversation today and showing our listeners a little bit about how technology is moving both in the adoption of artificial intelligence, but more so like how other companies like Portal 26 have showed up to like help with that adoption in a safe and appropriate way.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for having me in particular, Aarti Raman, and the founder and CEO here. Super excited at how relevant we have happened to become. We come from a secure analytics background, and when ChatGPT hit the market end of November 2022, we decided to put all of our eggs in the analyzing the consumption and usage of generative AI. And we thought if we can do that, this was our bet, and thankfully, you know, it's working out really nicely. But our bet was, well, bet if people moved into an AI-powered world, they would want to know what's happening, so that with an understanding of what's really happening and good analytics behind what's really happening, they can make sure nothing bad is happening, so the security outcomes, and they can make sure they make smart decisions on how to make good things happen, right? How to get the impact, the productivity, and all of that. So there's definitely an element of security and then competitive advantage. And we thought analytics is going to drive all of that. Mm-hmm. So we decided to make a big bet and build an application that receives generative AI usage traffic and then gives back to the organization visibility into who's using it, how it's being used, what's going in and out of the organization, security, adoption, and all of those things that hopefully we get a chance to talk more about. But that was our bet. And like I said earlier, it's just super cool to be relevant to how important this has become today. So thank you. My background, by the way, is mathematics and security. Before here, I was at Symantec. So any easy questions should come my way, and hard questions should go to Joe. Who has yet to introduce himself?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, beat that, Joe.
Let's see how to compliment that. Yes, I met Chris not too long ago at RSA, and I'll back up a little bit. So, one behind me, I'm in San Francisco. In particular, I'm in the Ferry Building in this cool club called Shack 15, which is relevant because it was home to, I believe, the first ever OpenAI hackathon that I went to. I'm not a hacker. I'm not super technical, but I was highly encouraged to go to this thing last March, I think it was. And I spent the whole weekend here basically talking to every single person who I could, force myself on to figure out, like, what is this OpenAI thing? Like, the audience here was, PhDs and masters in machine learning from Stanford, like these really, really smart people. And beyond bringing down the average IQ in the room, I was fascinated with the answers that were coming from everyone, and everyone was just saying, like, this is a super tool like I've never seen before, and I'm able to do in a weekend what would have taken me 12 weeks to do previously. And it was probably within a month or two of that I realized, after in my career as Microsoft and large consulting, and went through the whole digital transformation wave and saw that it took large corporates an undue amount of time to just rationalize cloud, like to go from on-prem to cloud was like, mind bending, it seemed. And this tool was just so incredibly powerful that you start asking the question, like, what is this going to mean for the enterprise? How's the enterprise going to adopt something that is this, unique, and the use cases they espouse to be so powerful and transformational. It's really going to kind of throw the leadership of a company on a tailspin. And around that time, a friend of mine who's in the National Association of Corporate Directors, that like boards out there, shared with me that no topic other than COVID has gone to the board level as fast as Gen AI. So you get all these senior executives that are like, "Hey, this is an amazing thing. We got to go do it and do it fast." That are putting this pressure from the tops down. And it was about that time that I met Arthi and started to learn about what she was up to, and it just made so much sense that that this novel superpower tool is coming into the enterprise. At the same time, there's really no strong governance mechanism out there. So when I learned of Portal 26, we became fast friends, and we've been having a lot of fun, and including with folks like yourself, Chris, since then. So we'll get into some of our learnings along the way, but that's a bit of my how I got in the mix here with Arthi and Portal 26.
Yeah, I would love to hear a little more about your thinking, you guys' thinking about market opportunity. Watch this. Good buddy of mine, CISO in a portco, says, like, what's your company doing with AI right now? Stop. People that are in third-party risk assessment strategies, like, tell me more about what your company does, even from the security team perspective. Is there an AI back into that? Because we're so paralyzed with the decision, stop. So we're all trying to figure out how to adopt smartly and what the ramifications are, and frankly, size up the market and see. So I see a lot of pumping the brakes, trying to figure out not how to get yourself in a bad spot with it. J Lord, what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, the exact same thing, but like my anecdote is on the personal side. So my daughter just started college last week, and so over the last 6 months, applying to colleges and like talking to counselors and the amount of like auto-generated Gen AI generated answers to all these questions, and like college is nothing like when we applied back then. She applied to 20 something schools, and every single one of those schools, they've got 4 or 5 answers, and just like going through those, like how is an organization like Stanford University, dealing with things like that, where are they getting, 6,000? And then on the other side, on the recruiting side of all these people that are, having Gen AI generated resumes that they're being sent in to be able to match the criteria of the job description, and how are companies dealing with that on that side. So just like looking at and dealing with all of those pieces of it from the outside perspective.
There's a funny, interesting, like negative use case, or like we always lean towards the negative security use case because this is what we do.
Yeah.
And like the person in the interview using Gen AI to answer the question in the moment because they have a second laptop over here on the side and like literally reading it and stuff. Like it's how crazy it is. People are able to already take advantage of it and cheat. So anyway, I would love to hear a little more about like what you're seeing in adoption strategies that drove you to create Portal 26 and like why the visibility matters so much.
So, it's interesting how at an enterprise level, you've got hesitation and blocking and, caution. But on a personal level, an enterprise are nothing but groups of people. On personal level, it's off the charts, the usage. That's interesting, right? Because you have an opportunity where you don't have to intuit or guess or be academic about what the usage needs to be, what the use cases are, and where the risks are. You can literally look at what's happening in a non-sanctioned way because it's happening, right? People do have their laptops open while answering interview questions and taking tests, and people are plagiarizing, and there is content in public AIs that's stolen. You got IP problems, and your people are actually using it. Developers are using ChatGPT to write production code. It is happening.
Yep.
So for you to figure out what to do, there's no better way than look at what's happening and see how to kind of make sense of that. So we're seeing two patterns. We're seeing what I just said, where people are like, okay, the door's open, let me have a look. And it's going to help me both understand what my policy needs to be and what my controls need to be, as well as figure out what I should invest in. If everyone's using ChatGPT to write production code, I need a GitHub Copilot license because, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And then there's people that are like, absolutely not. I'm going to take my secure web gateway, my proxy, and I'm going to use it to block everything Gen AI. And I'm going to, now basically work in my lab and all of that. And for those people are using their phones, right? So now they don't have to. Well, we've got like both kinds of users. It's two extremes.
Yeah.
And so I think, that's basically that's the precise answer to your question. But what I think about that is that it's an unstoppable train.
Yeah.
So the sooner you get yourself oriented, the better it is. And we want to be in that business, right? Helping people get oriented.
Philosophically, like that. Oh yeah, Joe.
Sure. I mean, I think
No, please.
Broadly, I think you kind of have to pause and look at there's two modalities of governance around this Gen AI stuff right now. So modality one is the governance of models, and there's a whole scientific field around that. So weighting, biases, kind of the security of that model. There's just it's,
the data, the transparency, the algorithms. Yep.
Yeah, there's an immense amount of innovation going on in that category. It's moving really fast. And then the other is the usage governance inside of the enterprise, which is where we're seeing a lot of interesting interactions. And to Arthi's point, there's never been a consumer technology that hit faster adoption than OpenAI.
Yeah.
So clearly there's utility. And I think it really kind of challenges talent inside of an organization, because on one hand, I step forward and I want to be really good talent. I want to, be aware of the new technologies and utilize them. And I want to be 5x more productive. And I'm using it, as you said, in your personal life. You're starting to see it more and more. And it's intriguing and it's fascinating. And it really is a super tool. And at this hackathon I went to a person, they all said, I'm at least 5x more productive if I use this. So try taking that tool away from someone once they're accommodating and using it. So you're seeing adoption. There's just no question you're seeing adoption. And I think from our early client work, there's never a client that doesn't have some form of a breach that is unacceptable off strategy. So there's no question there's adoption. But right now, the gap in the marketplace is that the I tend to think of it as Maslow's hierarchy, right? So if you think of, self-actualization as like AGI and the most, on strategy consumption you could possibly have in an organization. But until you're going to get there, you got to have the base, which is like safety. If you don't have safety, right? So this thing entered the organization typically from the top, from the board, and boards are risk optimized. And CEOs often, depending on the industry, are going to bias more towards let's stay risk averse here for a while. Let's policy up. Let's stunt the adoption of this, which I don't think you can stunt the adoption of a super tool like this too effectively.
Yeah.
So now you've got this unnatural constraint in the organization. So a lot of what we've been focusing on and seeing is, kind of two scenarios. There's the top-down mandate from the CEO. This is, we're going to go do this and we're going to figure it out. And the other is it's organic and we're repressing it, we're blocking it. And at best, you've got some interesting POCs in the organization. And last year, and I'd say even into this year, rampant POCs with no core metrics that they're looking for on the productivity of that.
Yeah.
Now we're starting to see the use cases get more and more powerful at a non-consumer level, at an enterprise level. So the irrepressibility of this, the inevitability of these use cases is getting so high that the need for safety is going up much faster. And I think, where we are engaging with the client, we're seeing a lot of heads nodding of, that we really need to be methodical and effective and cross-functionally inclusive about how we think about governing AI, because it's not an IT thing. Yes, it touches IT. It's not a legal thing. Yes, it touches legal, but like there's a need for cross-functional inclusiveness and coordination around this in a way that you didn't see with prior era technology. So it's moving fast, it's coming tops down. Most organizations don't have the literacy needed around the technology, and the governance of it is novel. Like it really is a different animal. And as you mentioned, Jason, like how do you set a policy for this? Well, you don't go to OpenAI to set the policy, but maybe you get a decent start, but those policies are still super formative.
I would say that like the most illustrative point for me is that it's a technology that was released that was web UI accessible. And because of that, the world was able to take hold to it in such a clean and easy way. And then the second part of that was that because of that and the color that came from the industry pushing it and the easy accessibility is inevitable that it's coming out. So now we're falling back into our typical security posture of like, holy crap, the genie's out of the bottle. And now what do we do? And so this is interesting to me, like how you guys came up with the solution of what you've done. So I would love to for you to show our audience a little bit about at the highest level. They can come get a demo if they're interested in the depth of it. But how does it work? How do you make it real? Like if the idea is that I can get true visibility into who's using AI for what purpose. Give us a little bit of a kind of the nerdy parts of how that actually happens.
Can I pause real quick?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that you said, Joe, is all these people are coming to you, that you're talking to, are saying, "Hey, 5x productivity," and no one's doubting that. There's so much that comes out of it. But if you look at something like Hanlon's razor of malicious versus stupidity, which is a big thing that we look at from a security perspective, that's also increasing fivefold for the people on the security side. So how are we looking at that? How are we, obviously your tool of being able for us to detect and see and go investigate those things, I think is a very important aspect. You're going to get a lot more productivity, but you also might be bringing in bad code, bringing in bad reused algorithms, stolen information from someone else that didn't agree to have this brought in, and a violation of a licensing agreement or whatever. So those are the aspects that I'm looking at and thinking of. Where now is that something where this technology that you're engaged in is able to detect and find?
Yeah.
Yeah. The show. I'm sorry. Go. You were going to say.
No, please go ahead, Dorothy.
Oh, no, I was going to say that's exactly the idea, right? Is to use AI to govern AI, if you will, right? Because one thing that you get with AI is the ability to very, very quickly scan and look for things that maybe your traditional data loss prevention tools might not catch. Maybe you find context, maybe you find intellectual property, maybe you find company specific things, but it gives you the ability to scan and look for all of that. So we definitely do that. But you made one point which I just wanted to highlight. You said it's going to make us 5 times more productive. We don't doubt that, but there are risks. Actually, the other side of the house, now that it's turning out to be so darn expensive, wants to know, are they really getting that 5x productivity or not?
Yeah, that's a good
and they
point.
want to understand that impact, right? And they want to, and then once they do that, they want to maybe migrate. Maybe, OpenAI is heavily featured for that little use case they have, and they don't want to pay, like $6 million a year for that use case, and they want to move it. So very fast, that productivity question is also basically back on the table. I just wanted to throw that out as well. Joe, you were going to say something, and then maybe I can show some product.
Yeah.
Was that the ask? Show you some product?
Well,
show you some pictures?
Show me. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, how does this thing work? Like, totally. Well, hang on. I want to make sure Joe's got, if he's got a capstone on that. I think.
Nope. I'm good. Let's show the pride and joy.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, the big picture to me is this is like everything else in the security world. Like, philosophically, I feel like this is the challenge of anyone that has a security leadership role, keeping up with the business and what they're trying to do. That alone is hard enough, especially in bespoke industries and finance, like understanding what a quant trader does, understanding what a banker does. And then on top of that, you overlay the fact that AI becomes empowered in most third-party tools you use today, both in the support of IT and the support of any other kinds of meaningful web-based app today. And so, like, how do you get control? Well, it starts fundamentally with the first order principle in security of, like, let me see what's happening. And with that, I can learn something. And so that's what Joe, when we, were at the bar there at RSA, that's what I grabbed. It was like, oh, cool, like a different view that I don't have to build a bunch of weird detection rules for or anything like that. I can actually help the boss understand who in the company wants to use AI. What are they doing today because it's freely available, at least in terms of the web side of things. I don't know yet what's embedded in third parties, but that's I'm sure part of the innovation of what you're trying to also discover. And then we could actually tie these functions into the story about data leakage protection, third-party risk assessment, and business strategy, which is the 3 key parts that that I think we want to tie into.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So at the 15-second word version of how it works is it works on top of your network monitoring investment, whatever that might be. So if you have a secure web gateway or you have a DLP solution, something where you unpack TLS and look at things. And traditionally you were looking maybe for other things, but now you want to look for generative AI. We just write on top of that. So it's a real-time copy of your traffic as it goes back and forth with AI. And we grab it at the traffic level, take it apart, look at your metadata, look at your payloads, look at your attachments, and then see what I'm going to show you now. And we're early days still, right? So everything I'm going to show you that I'm super proud of is probably a tenth of what you need, as the years go by, but it's definitely a really strong start. Well, was that enough context, Chris?
It was. I think that's a really important point too. Like, where are you guys in the development journey? Like, are Series A, Series B, seed funded? Like, where is Portal 26 today? I mean, go figure that out. But you should.
We are a seed funded company, and we're so proud to say that our seed funding was before ChatGPT came out, and since then our wonderful customers are paying as well, so we haven't had to go back for money.
Wow.
That doesn't mean, it's a point of personal pride actually, because a lot of companies will just raise a lot. Not that that's wrong, but I'm super proud that we're doing it on our own, at least now.
So to reconfirm what you're saying is that, like, your network telemetry, so like you hook into the traditional ZTNA technologies, Zscalers and Palos and Ciscos and So
scopes
that's how it works.
and
Yeah.
even your standard network DLP that doesn't have to be baked into Zscaler Netscope, but any place you unpack TLS, you can hook this in.
API pipe data to you. You can tell me who's using AI. Is that the punchline?
Exactly. We can tell you what AI is going back and forth. So which tools are being used. We don't care if it's direct to browser or if it's coming through an application or a copilot or a, I don't know, IDE plugin or something else. But because we're looking actually at the traffic itself, we're able to isolate AI.
Can I see context?
Go ahead.
Can I see context?
We show you some context today. We hopefully build on that more and more. So today, for example, what I'll show you, or at least the demo I have, is all outbound. You're going to see things leaving the organization. We have the ability, and we do it for Bedrock right now, not for third party. We have the ability to string conversations together. So we'll be bringing that as well into the third party use, which then helps you understand things like efficiency, right? Or multiple transactions for the same sin, something you want to convict. You maybe don't want to convict it 10 times. It's kind of one big transaction. Yeah. We can see things like that. We can also see like who needs to be trained. Like it's taking this person 45 tries to get, the AI to do this thing, and maybe they need some help or something like that.
Or who's a visual data leaker and like, oh my gosh, they're literally pumping all of our production code into a model trying to figure out what's wrong with it.
Mm-hmm. Things like, again, like, who's spending our licenses on drawing pictures versus who's spending it to do, to do productive things. So I'm thinking I show you a quick demo so you see kind of what this looks like, and then we can continue the conversation. This is a good time?
Totally. Let's do it.
So this is our little company, and I'm not quite sure which instance I've pulled up. This is on the fly, so hopefully it suffices.
I love it.
So you'll see that, thank you. So you'll see that we've got, 28 of us. That's exactly how many people we are. We use AI quite a bit. You'll see. So when I do a demo, I usually sell product exactly at this point, because we, as you can see, are able to go back in time and give you audit and forensics. So you being a security practitioner would appreciate that in early days, you don't even know what is going to go wrong, right? So for our customers, when they learned that Hugging Face had a breach or OpenAI had a vulnerability, they're able to go back in time and say, show me what happened over the last 45 days. And you can pick those time periods and see everything I'm about to show you. So this is actually a really important element of what we do. We do a secure, encrypted analytic vault, and our customers are able to basically go back and understand their transactions. So you got some other selections as well. So you can like go down to specific users, specific tools, specific teams, departments, etc. So imagine we're integrating not just with your generative AI usage on the network side, we're also integrating with your AD or whatever you do on the organization, so we understand like who these people are and what teams they belong to, etc., geos and groups and divisions and things like that. And we also can correlate with internal usage as well. So maybe you use Bedrock, maybe you use Azure OpenAI, you also use third parties, so you can do some compare and contrast there as well. So quick tour, this is like landing page, so you can kind of get a summary, how many users by prompts. This is all, interesting visualizations. We do prompts and intent. So again, I want to make sure I keep my demo tight, but a very important thing for our users is our customers is business versus personal. Why? Because, privacy and ethics, you really don't want to look if someone's researching their diabetes or, something else that's personal to them. So we kind of make that up front, and then we make sure that anything that's personal, it goes behind a very, very strong encryption. And unless you have some really good reason, perhaps you're not going to allow anybody to look at that kind of thing. Yeah. We also do I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, yeah, that makes sense. That's smart.
So from like from a GDPR or California, UK privacy laws, like are you able to block all that out with filters or?
We do. So we give you the ability to encrypt and never tokenize, encrypt and never decrypt, or this is your policy. You can decide how you want to do it. You might say in the event that there is an incident, then I might, have the authority to unlock that for an administrator or a superior or someone with extra privileges. You can do things like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then from a data sovereignty standpoint, we do have the ability to run different instances in different regions. So let's say we have a multinational, you might definitely not want to mix your APAC and NAM data with your EU data. You probably want to keep it separate. So we support all of that as well.
Got it.
Okay. From the business side, people want to know exactly what kinds of problems I'm solving. And right now, my demo has high-level cuts like, customer support, marketing, software development. How much of what am I doing with AI? And we tell you things like which tools are people using for what. And these things are clickable. You can kind of go into it and see exactly what prompts are going into OpenAI for that region, for that team, or whatever it is that you picked. I'm going to go back to the home page for a minute. So you can basically drill down on all of these things. We summarize departmental usage, and again, I don't know what's selected here, but these things will change with time. Things like that. Again, right? So there's a CXO persona that comes into play a lot. Like marketing is a very big user of AI.
Of course.
And they want to know which tools. And are the teams generating enough content that they should license something, or are they fine with free, or if they're spending, how much are they spending, and things like that. We've got tool summarization, prompt summarization. There's a dedicated risk dashboard, but there's a summary up here, but I'd rather show you the full dedicated risk dashboard. So maybe I hop over to that and quickly show you some tools. So for that period, you can look at your top 5 or your top 10 or all of that. You can look at how many prompts by tool. So imagine we slice and dice as much as we know to, and then if customers give us ideas, we add these widgets. And the idea is eventually to make it all customizable so you can design your dashboard the way you like and put widgets on here that make sense to you. But ultimately, our security practitioners care about risk. So I'll show you this prompt screen. Well, maybe I'll show you this prompt screen quickly before I show you risk. So way early in the game, we started doing these word clouds, which were really easy ways. And you can see this one's not saying a whole lot of anything. But in certain customers, we have found flagrant HR violations. Imagine what that might be by looking at a word cloud. We have found their customer names all over the word cloud for services companies, which means people are writing, external documentation that they're paid for, consulting assignments, things like that, using AI. That could be a problem. We have found data elements. Developers are uploading PII formatted one way and then asking AI to reformat it in another way so they can feed it to their program. So a whole lot of PII is leaving the organization. So we found a lot in these word clouds as well, but we don't expect our customers to stare at word clouds and find problems. That, maybe when they're doing an investigation, mostly what we see is people starting over at our risk dashboards. So you look at, for a period of time, was there a comment?
No, I was saying, I totally get where you're going with that.
Yep. So you start with a risk dashboard. And again, depending on, I'm not very clear what this data set is, but we've got some violating prompts. And so you might click into those. In this particular case, you can see that, it gives you quite a bit of information. How long is a prompt? Was there an attachment? How risky is the prompt? What did my gateway do with it? It allowed it. It allowed and alerted, or it allowed and didn't alert, things like that, right? So maybe I want to have a look at one of these. Let me look at this one. What does this really look like? What's happening? And I didn't rerun this. Cool. So I don't know what it's going to show you.
Yeah.
But basically, right, so it's highlighting, here's everything that's a problem in the automatic detectors, which we ship, which are AI based. I'll show you that list. It's flagging a bunch of stuff. But you might have set up some detectors yourself. So this one is catching my name. Someone has my name all over it, right? So it's catching these things and it's allowing you to look into that, research it, and then maybe investigate. So our customers have found malicious insiders, and then they've gone over to these filters and drilled down on that particular user. I can kind of show you really quickly how that works. So I can say, hang on a second. So I can say, I want to see what Jaya is doing, and I'm sorry, my Zoom window is blocking my thing.
Those games
Go with Zoom window. There we go. Apply. Okay. So, whatever, not a lot, but it allows you to go and drill down by user. Let me just cancel this. By user, by period in time. Now I can't see you guys now. There you go. You're back. Right. So it lets you do things like that. And so we find our customers doing proper incident investigations on this tool, seeing a malicious insider, what all they've done over a period of time. Another interesting little bit here, which you might enjoy, is we've got like a large number of out-of-the-box detectors as well. So where you might have your traditional data loss controls doing their job, they're supplemented by AI-powered detectors, and we ship a whole lot. You can find secrets and access keys and industry-specific violations and things like that, and that allows you to go improve what your inline controls are doing already.
Yeah.
How am I doing?
No, this is
so far so good.
This is cool.
Okay.
I wanna haggle with this a little bit. I wanna get into the philosophicals and the technicals. I mean, at first point, you think about the detection engineering mission and how it's evolved, right? It first starts with like infrastructure security problems and like keeping malware out. And then that quickly evolves into, as an organization, the investigatory mission that ties into IP protection, data leakage protection, and insider threat. And now there's a whole other abstracted layer that no one's probably ever thought about, in that with the rapid adoption of AI, both the data leakage protection, the compliance risk, and like, where do you want to be in the future with AI? That's what's neat. Like, these guys got in front of that before it ever became real.
Well, I think a lot of the conversations are like, oh, it'd be nice to know, but that probably is very complex.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, we already have the data collection sources.
Yeah.
So like the integration seems seamless.
It is.
Who
do you tie into, Artie, in terms of like what's the speed of deployment for a Portal 26 capability?
So our fastest so far has been 12 minutes and 53 seconds to get it out globally.
Oh, that's way too long. Never mind. I take back what I said.
I know, right? I have a mission statement. This is going to be so silly, but I want to flash our mission statement in front of you. Can I show you my mission statement, proud founder?
Yeah, you can show.
Let me show you my mission statement. Hang on a second. I did have another little thing I wanted to show you, but who knows what's going to come up here. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is our vision and mission statement. And tell me what you think, because it's a big vision. But I feel like we want to provide a platform that integrates in minutes into existing architectures and delights our customers by doing all 7 things you need for adoption. It's not just security. It's visibility, security, forensics, understanding impact, helping with policy, helping with education, and then eventually helping you manage your costs. So that's our vision. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to show you our vision.
different facets of the same diamond, right?
Yes, exactly. The founder jumping up and down. The one more thing I wanted to add, and then you can ask me, is we also do things like policy distribution, right? So when somebody is out either going to an AI for the first time or trying to do text to image for the first time, or whatever it is that your triggers might want to be, you can send them your policy, and our company has only 2, so shame on us. We should have 20, but we're little. But you can do that, and you can then figure out what your triggers are, unsanctioned AI or something else, and then you can track attestations. Again, we're little companies, so not a lot going on, but how many did you send, etc. And where this is going, this is still V1 of this feature block. But where it's going to end up is trying to understand, firstly, if your policy is right, take it apart and map it to your controls. And then secondly, are people that are reading and attesting to your policy doing less stupid things than people that haven't read and attested to your policy? Maybe you don't have the right policy or the right, education materials and things like that. And likewise with intent and impact, right? You can do. So I think I'll stop there and see if there's anything particular to talk about, but that's the RP version of the quick demo.
Downloads a plugin and they go to write their first prompt. I can have a JPEG of like my angry face come up. Be like,
You can have anything come up that you
what are
want.
the response actions? Yeah, we want to know what the SOAR capabilities are of Portal 26.
Just wait, Jason's on his way.
No, hang on. Like, this is really cool because, like, I don't know if, like, I hope our listeners conceptualize kind of the story that's coming out of this is that, like, it's already happening under your nose.
Yeah, it's happening.
Like, hey, CEO, hey, lawyer, hey, general counsel. The reality is, like, we can't stop this. One, because it's embedded in the native architectures of most of our third-party applications that we're already using because they're jumping the shark on it, trying to get value from it. So there's part one. Part two is that, like, it's just the internet. It's just Google. It's just part of how things work now. So if you want to try to control it, the only way to start with controlling it is to start with seeing it. And so you got to start exploring mechanisms and methodologies to be able to get a view and be able to do that. And that's what I think is kind of cool. That's what resonated with me in my conversation with Joe. And I would love to hear more about, like, that as part of the corporate strategy of how this goes to market and how you guys want this to work. Because I don't think people are getting it. People think that, like, they're going to control it with a policy or a mandate or an edict or a finger wag or a lawyer statement.
What's the elevator pitch to the executive team, right? Like, I think, security practitioners, as you said, or CISOs like Chris and I, like light bulb. Oh, great! Like, this is easy, quick integration, quick win. We can go beat up a bunch of people for doing dumb things, educate our user base. Like, all those are good things. But, like, at the executive level, you said, like, this is the fastest thing to make it to the boards, other than, COVID. So what's the like, this is why it's important, because I imagine a lot of non-technical, non-security leaders of companies are like, oh, well, isn't AI a good thing? Don't we want people using this technology?
Yeah. So back when we started last year, we were doing a lot of evangelizing. Thankfully now the term is shadow AI. It's out there. You say shadow AI, people know what it is. And so the very first thing people are trying to do and paying us for is basically discovering shadow AI, which means you don't know what's happening. So we say three things. Shadow AI, we are your friend. We're looking at the traffic. We're going to tell you what's happening. We're going to see it all direct to browser, through apps, like I said, right? Coming from different places. So shadow AI, number one, make sure bad things don't happen. Number two, make sure you get the benefit, you get ROI from your AI investments. Number three, right? Those are the three big things. Half the people care about shadow AI, which is like IT, CIO, that tower. All the security people care about making sure nothing bad happens. So whether it's like layered defense, second line of defense for your DLP, whether it is making sure, you've got your Gen AI incidents figured out, all of that for the security people. And then everybody on the business adoption, strategy, legal, CFO, everybody else is basically caring about making sure they get the benefit. Hey, we just set aside, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, Artie, what I respect most about, how you were able to get ahead of this and is kind of really interesting to me after 20 years of, like, watching organizations evolve and trying to be the security guy that enables and powers the business, but not be in the way of it, not break it. We talked about CrowdStrike on the previous show. And like, that's a whole nother interesting story, is that this is one where you can confidently, reasonably come to the executive team and says, I don't know, and you don't know. We're trying to figure out what the monetization strategy is going to be. How are we going to take advantage of AI? But what I can tell you is I can see what people are doing, and with that, we can learn something. And that can power a strategy by the fact that a big organization can't orchestrate it from the top. But you can actually grassroots build the strategy from learning what people are doing, because you actually sometimes don't even know. It's on the back end or some bespoke developer. And that visibility thing, man, like observability and cyber defense and company defense are very, very powerful aspects. And I love that thread of what you're trying to do. And I want to hear that echo more in how you guys are telling the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back when we decided to go after this problem, we spoke to some 56 companies, exactly that many.
Is
And
that,
Joe,
hey,
I
wait,
know you got to talk.
is that what Portal 26 means? Like, what, like, we didn't even,
Well, it
I mean,
was 56.
oh,
What is
56.
56 is who I spoke to. 426 has a different origin story. Um, the origin story is rather humble. We could not afford to pay for the word portal, which is what we wanted to call our company. It was going to cost us too much, $700,000 to be exact. And I didn't want to spend that. So
Cyber
we
squatting
looked
is a great
hard.
game.
We looked hard for what number to put on there, and we've got a bunch of marathon runners in our company, and we thought, well, kind
Come
of
on. Is that really what
put
it is?
we.
It's Portal plus marathon runners. I've
It's
run the
it's
Marine Corps. I've run the Marine Corps marathon
it's
5 times. I'm proud of that. I'm too fat for it
yes.
I
now.
ran it 4 times.
Woo!
See, Portal 26.2 was strange.
Yes.
That would not have worked, right?
The DNS might have broke.
But yes, but portal, because it's a portal to the age of AI, and it's a marathon. You're not going to solve it today. So that was our logic.
Oh, that's brilliant.
But really, portal would have been fine. I'm sorry, Joe, please.
I just want to throw in the bad dad joke here too, which we learned from one of our clients, which was Portal 1 through 25 didn't work. So we created Portal 26. I don't know if you know that joke that preparation A through G didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right, preparation 8.
Yes.
Which one of you have run a marathon?
I am.
Not me.
All right, gotcha.
Not me, but two of us, so our head of products and our head of engineering both run marathons.
Fair.
So, as does Neil, head of marketing. And Joe, I only hire marathon runners.
Right.
That's my entire exec team is that.
All right, goal for 2025. We'll all run a marathon
That's
together.
right.
I ain't signing up for that.
Oh,
My back and
yes,
knees
sir.
do not do it anymore.
I totally lost what were we talking about?
I'll throw something out there while you're recalibrating, Arthea. Sorry to interrupt your flow there.
No, please.
Yeah, I think you asked kind of the question of like, what's the narrative at the top of the corporation today? And one element of that right now is that I think they're all trying to figure out their own internal leadership architecture. And if you've both been around technology for a long time, so you probably saw the evolution of an architectural review board and security board. And these things they've evolved over the last couple of decades. Well, now we're starting to see the advent of this AI COE, which in and of itself is a peculiar thing because often the initial dominant voice in that COE is not a technologist.
Yeah.
It's an attorney. It's GRC or corporate counsel is kind of got the dominant voice of that.
Yeah.
And then that kind of sets the stage. And it's not uncommon that we see, because we can see everything, we see that the organization will establish acceptable use, distribute acceptable use, and the employee base assumes in that acceptable use that it's architecturally and technologically backed.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, hey, I shouldn't go to third-party Gen AI sites, and I go to one and it works, well, I'm assuming I'm compliant because, why would you have pushed the acceptable use out without that being in place?
Right.
And so you're starting to see it's like impedance matching, right? The technologists, the strategists, the business people, the attorneys, the GRC, they're all kind of figuring out what does it mean to govern this AI thing. And no one actually has the rabbit by the tail on it yet. So the adoption is kind of all over the place. So I think that's like the where we are often now starting to get plugged in is, as you mentioned, Chris, is ultimately a leadership body has to govern and make decisions about strategy. And in order to do that, you need to have a clear real-time understanding of what is usage, what are risks, what competing alternatives do we have that are potentially cost optimized, and what is our cost orientation based on specific workloads. So I think part of the initial spark here is one, just okay, how would you go get that data without us? Like, how would you task that?
Yeah.
And then secondly, would that data be real time, and can you create a vault that is secure and proper from an architectural standpoint? And do we integrate it into existing kind of multi-decade mature processes in the company? Like, you probably have dozens of employees in your organizations that know how to do certain processes. how do we plug it into the existing ways of working of the organization? So it's not, okay, we run the business this way, but we run AI in a completely different way, right? So I think what we've been at with this is how do you securely and in an enduring capacity get access to the data real time, store it, make it, available for forensics and audit, and how do we fit into and integrate into existing processes and structures that security and technology leaders are already familiar with, and it's not going to require additional training and diligence and transforming of the company to be able to put this into practice.
Yeah, I that totally makes sense, man. And the bigger picture to me is that it's this whole nother abstracted layer of both governance and oversight and visibility and management that just appeared this year. Like everyone has to start doing this right now, and your time to market and the fact that you guys had this ahead of time is really neat. And so, look, I wanted to say first, thanks for coming on the show, Artie. Like, props to you guys for like seeing where this was going. I think it's really cool. I don't even think the competitive landscape is broad. I don't think there's a lot of folks out there that do what you do. I think it's really interesting to try to illuminate to our users and others of like there's another way to deal with adoption, and it can start first with a constructive visibility program, and it reinforces very much kind of the lessons I talk about in security of like if I can't see, I don't know, and if I see, I can give you a lot of good advice. Yeah. And that being philosophically what's like true about what you're trying to do, and it's great. And the fact that it's a native architecture that plugs in already to your network discovery capabilities and whatnot, like that makes it easy. And so you got to think differently. And so I hope our listeners would take a look and hit you guys up when the opportunity presents itself to do so. And thanks for coming on the show, man. I think you guys are onto something. How's the business outlook? Like, what's the rest of the year look like? And then we'll let you guys get on down the road for the weekend.
I will say 4 words. We are stretched thin. We are stretched thin. It is scary and exciting and just a massive opportunity for us. So our hope is that we continue to have tons of customers that are referenceable, which is like the most important thing. So currently we're 100% tracking on that. Everybody who has it loves us. So we kind of need to strike that balance, right? Make sure the growth and the quality and the trust is something we maintain. But like I said, when I introduced myself, I feel so fortunate to have made a good bet, basically, because you never know, right? You kind of do these things months and years ahead, but it's really wonderful.
Yeah.
So
on a personal note, I left Symantec in 2010 from a senior, very senior role with over 100 people and very cushy job, corner office, and I had everything going for me. And I left to start my own company, and I spent the next 3 years kicking myself in the ass, like, why did I do this? And then all of a sudden it clicked one day of like, oh, this is why I went and started my own company. So like we share that piece of it. So like all of this is great. I will throw out the legal disclaimers that we aren't taking any money from you. We are independent idiots. These are our own opinions. No one that we work for, we share those opinions. We're not trying to influence anyone, but we love awesome technology. Obviously Chris brought this to me. We were super excited. So glad that you could come on. And this was amazing.
I think next steps, I would love, let's let the end of year close for you guys. Let's see how the AA market evolves a little bit. But I would love kind of early Q1 kind of like what's really happening. And you guys come down to the show. Like we always try to set this hook out with the Unapologetic Security Podcast of like, we've had a couple of folks come and show up, folks that in crypto, my buddy Ethan, but like come down here and like, let's really talk,
we would love that.
What do you really like? And just like, let it out. We get to like have a little Southern Evangelical Baptist Church opportunity and and like talk shit. So like
We'll have a food truck in the spring.
perfect. I mean, you guys are cool. I think you guys are really onto something. That's why I was excited to bring you on the show. And so that said, like, let's hear how the year closed. Let's hear what's evolving. It's going to move so fast that it'll be a whole new story by then. But let's make it happen.
Well, we gratefully accept.
All right,
Joe, I'm accepting on your behalf too. So you and I are going out for sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for the invite and letting us join your barn today and in person in the future. We're in.
All right. Well, listen, Joe,
Thank you.
Artie, Joe, like what a great show. I hope our listeners appreciate and respect like the reason this is happening. Most anyone that would probably listen to our show is thinking about the problem of like how do I enable safely my company to embrace AI to for its own purposeful progress. And you guys have a pretty meaningful capability that's come out of this from what we've seen. I would love for us to spend a little more time picking it apart, a little more analytical pieces. But I think everyone got a pretty good view of that today. And we'll see you in Q1, and we'll see where things are. I think it'll be a good show.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a
Bye
great
bye.
night. Yeah.
Cool. All right, we'll see you again.
Take care.
Bye bye.
All right.